This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you an exclusive interview with Chairman of INTER-DISCIPLINARY AYUSH Research and Development Task Force, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, on the role of AYUSH 64 and Kabasur Kudineer in COVID-19 management. The interviewer is AIR correspondent Anand Chaturvedi.
Sir, what is special about AYUSH 64 and how does it work? How effective has it been?
AYUSH 64 is a polyherbal Ayurvedic formulation that was prepared by Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Sciences for the treatment of malaria. It comprises of 4 plants. I will not tell you the botanical names because they will be difficult, but common names, they are known as Saptavaranga, then Kutaki, Kirayat and Kanta Karanja. These are the 4 plants which are commonly used in Ayurvedic medicine, and the speciality of AYUSH 64 is that it is much effective in influenza-like illnesses and diseases like flu with common symptoms including viral fever to reduce duration and early recovery without any side effects. So in short, this is a anti-malarial drug getting repurposed now for the treatment of mild to moderate COVID.
What is the speciality about Kabasur Kudineer and how does it work?
Kabasur Kudineer is a Siddha polyherbal formulation. It's a classical Siddha formulation which has 15 different ingredients, and Kabasur Kudineer has been used for a long period, especially in Tamil Nadu and other areas. It has very good anti-inflammatory, analgesic, antipyretic and antiviral activities also. It has been used since long again for flu-like illnesses and respiratory infections. It was used as a mainstay treatment for dengue as well as chikungunya also when their outbreak we witnessed especially in South India. In Siddha system, it has been indicated for fevers and different respiratory problems.
Sir, we hear that this medicine have gone through robust clinical trials. What is the meaning of this robust clinical trial?
Robust clinical trial, for example, clinical trials on AYUSH 64, we say that they comply with good clinical practices, which is accepted global standards of doing clinical research. In short, they are called as GCP compliant. And robust clinical trials are protocol driven. So we prepare a very robust protocol. We register these trials in clinical trials registry. So what we are going to do, we fix it earlier. So we can't change it in future, So they are very rigidly monitored. They are very well controlled and they are statistically powered. There are 4 phases of clinical trials. In the first phase, normally the dose ranging study on healthy volunteers is done. Second phase of clinical trial is to assess efficacy and side effects of a test drug. Third phase is typically multi-centered and with large number of participants. And the fourth phase is once the drug is put in the market, the post-marketing surveillance data from the public use is collected. So these 4 phases and the careful designing and monitoring and execution of the clinical trial is called as robust clinical trial.
Sir, have these clinical trials been validated by experts or by world bodies like WHO?
WHO-like world bodies, they have no mandate to validate such clinical trials. Such clinical trials, when they are planned, there is a process by which clinical trials are planned. The first step is designing the protocol, and which is the most important step. So when we designed the protocol for studies on AYUSH 64, this was actually subjected to very rigorous peer review. Peer review means we will send these draft protocols to a couple of experts and they give their comments, suggestions, and after considering their comments and suggestions, we go on modifying this protocol. And once this protocol is finalized and vetted by experts, then we subject it to registration at the clinical trial registry, which is maintained by the ICMR or Indian Council of Medical Research. So this is a very systematic process where validation happens at several stages. Even when the clinical trial is started, there is a monitoring committee of experts which is independent and they continuously see the progress of this clinical trial. There is also another committee of experts which validates or which monitors or which ensures that the patients who are participating or participants who are participating in this clinical study, ethically there is nothing wrong. So it is called as Data Safety Monitoring Board. So these AYUSH 64 trials complied with GCP guidelines, and we had an independent monitoring committee that was chaired by eminent medical scientist Dr. Vishwa Mohan Katoch, who was earlier Director General of ICMR, and we also had an independent data safety monitoring board consisting of experts coming from top institutes such as All India Institute of Medical Sciences.
So what was the age and gender of those people, those groups in which the clinical trials have been undertaken? Can you share with our listeners?
The IUSH 64 clinical trial, I must tell you that the age group of this clinical trial was 18 to 60 years of age, and patients either sex were included in this. Number of women was much less as compared to men, because we know that the incidence of COVID is more, and therefore we could get more men. But this was not planned. This was randomized trial.
Sir, if you can share with our listeners, like which hospitals or agencies conducted these trials, and across the country, I know it has been done. Like specifically in which part of the country or in which agencies have done it?
All these clinical trials, we had very rigid inclusion and exclusion criteria. Which patient should be included in the trial and which should be excluded. For example, those who are pregnant, they are excluded, or those who are coming with comorbidities, they are excluded. And patients who are included in the clinical trials, they were confirmed by RT-PCR positive test for COVID. These clinical trials were conducted at 4 major institutes in India. The first one is King George Medical University, Lucknow, then Bruhan Mumbai Corporation COVID Hospital in Mumbai, and Datta Meghe Institute of Medical Sciences situated in Wardha, along with Central Council of Research in Ayurvedic Sciences scientists. All of them conducted this clinical trial. Other than safety and efficacy studies, were also conducted these studies at Government Medical College, Nagpur, and Tibia College and Hospital in New Delhi, and Dhanvantari Ayurveda College COVID Center at Chandigarh. So essentially these are the main places or medical centers where these clinical trials were carried out.
So now one of the most important questions after listening to all the benefits of IUSH 64, how can a person buy these drugs, and how much does it cost, and where will it be readily available?
These formulations are already available in the market, and they are manufactured by different pharmaceutical companies, mostly INTCL. This is a Government of India manufacturing facility, and they manufacture IUSH 64. The cost of IUSH 64 is also very affordable to people, Pack of 40 tablets of IUSH 64 is about 105 rupees, Based on local taxes, these costs may vary to some extent, and these medicines can be consumed as per the advice of qualified Ayush practitioners.
And what about the availability of Kabasura Kudanir and the cost?
Kabasura Kudanir also is available. Kabasura Kudanir is some kind of a decoction. It's a liquid preparation, and that is available mostly, I would say, that in Tamil Nadu and the places where Siddha medicines are available. So you may not get Kabasura Kudanir in all the shops like IUSH 64. The availability of Kabasura Kudanir in general chemist shops also will be increased.
And the brand name would remain the same, you are saying?
That's right. IUSH 64 is the brand name, and Kabasura Kudanir is a classical name, and those medicines are sold under these names only. They may be manufactured by different companies, but the name of the medicine will be the same.
You said that people who have mild to moderate symptoms have shown lesser duration of hospitalization after taking these drugs. And it is also known that these drugs boost your immunity. So is it advisable?
These IUSH 64 and Kabasura Kudanir are not essentially the immunity booster. So they are more for the antipyretic activity, antiviral activity, anti-inflammatory activity, which helps in really relieving flu-like symptoms. But what is important is these drugs are given in addition to standard of care. So whatever the standard of care prescribed by the national protocol, people should take, and the doctors who are taking care of them, they can decide whether this particular case is mild and they may not need any other medicine, and they can be kept only on Kabasura Kudanir or IUSH 64 as standalone. But these decisions will have to be taken by the attending physicians or attending Vaidyas or attending doctors or COVID doctors. This is not to be decided by the patient.
So you are saying that people should not go and buy these drugs over the counter in a self-medication way?
No, they can buy it over the counter, but the consumption has to be under the supervision and in consultation with the doctor.
Why do you want these drugs to be distributed throughout the country, sir?
No, we want to distribute it because we think that these drugs can really help people who are in mild to moderate conditions. Their hospitalization chances can be reduced, their disease progression can be controlled, and they can become RT-PCR negative from 7 to 15 days. So these are the big benefits, and more people, if they get these benefits, the load on hospitalization will go down.
The doctors who have been practicing the allopathic medicines, have they been advised to prescribe or to make these drugs available for the patients who are admitted in hospitals?
Ministry of Ayush had just yesterday released a notification in which they are saying that Ayush 64 will be brought in for the treatment of COVID-19. COVID-19 treatment will have to be done with mutual consensus of allopathic and Ayurvedic doctors, because what patient needs, we should be able to give. So if Ayurvedic Vaidya is there and he or she is able to prescribe Ayush 64 or Siddha doctor prescribing Kabasura Kudini, they will have to work, and that's why we said that these drugs are in addition to standard of care. Now, standard of care is given mostly by the allopathic doctor. So these kind of alignment, all the patches or integration of these patches is essential for better effect and better efficiency and better recovery and better care of COVID-19 patients.
Sir, for our listeners, can you please tell us in how many days these medicines will start actually showing some effects, and how long does the effect last?
It will depend on the, again, severity of the condition and patient condition, patient individual, what in Ayurveda they call it as Prakruti. So there are several variables, so there is no straightforward answer to this, but by and large, based on the observations and experiences of different clinical trials, it is said that the formulation starts acting immediately for the management of clinical symptoms, and patients may become RT-PCR negative somewhere between 7th and 15 days, and patients are expected to undergo complete clinical recovery within a week or so.
Sir, government has just decided to induct 8 lakh qualified Ayush professionals for clinical management of COVID-19. How do you see this decision?
This is a very welcome step. Ministry of Ayush has taken that step, because Ayush doctors are trained. There is a online portal created by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and these doctors are actually trained to take care of COVID patients. In many Ayurvedic hospitals, you will find that there are reasonably good facilities available, including oxygen facilities are also available. So in the present situation, when we are falling short of hospitals and beds, Ayush Ministry's step to bring in all the strength of Ayush along with their doctors will really help India to fight COVID better.
Dr. Patwardhan, for our listeners, can you please share some of the tips that common person who's been not tested COVID positive, what should he do to boost his immunity?
I would advise them, please visit Ministry of Ayush website. There are guidelines given by Ministry of Ayush. There are home remedies and Ayush interventions, golden milk or masya. These are all given on the Ayush website. Please visit Ayush website and download Ayush Sanjeevani app. Find that lot of good information is available on this Ayush Sanjeevani app. So please follow that app, follow the Ayush website and get help. Now, yesterday Ministry of Ayush has started a helpline also. So all this is available at your rescue. The whole ministry and the doctors community is there all out to help those who need. And India comes out of this disaster very, very soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patwardhan, for speaking to us.
Thank you.
You were listening to an exclusive interview with Chairman of INTER-DISCIPLINARY AYUSH Research and Development Task Force, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, on the role of Ayush 64 and Kabasur Kudinir in COVID-19 management. The interviewer was AIR correspondent Anand Chaturvedi. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.